Ain't no one in the NFL better than me.
Breaking down the best performances of the week, letting you know if there's a sign of things to come, or the bad performances. Are we looking at things going forward like this, or are things going to change? We just mentioned it and talked about him. Taysom Hill, 42.5 fantasy points, 1 for 2 in the passing game, 18 yards and an interception. 7 carries for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. 8 catches on 10 targets for 50 yards receiving. Dude, I would take 8 for 10 with 50 yards just from my tight end.
Cup stat line.
Yeah, I would just take 13 points from my tight end spot. Like, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
And he had a fumble, so I'd take 11 points from my tight end spot and be like, oh, thank God. Made out well this week. Nice, this is great. So he just has all these different options for you in the game. Yeah, I hate this guy with a passion, but it's for real. Like, he's so annoying, but it's to a point where it's like how Tyler Lockett used to be. Of like, you would draft Lockett and you know he'd finish the season as like a top 15 or 20 guy, but you just have to roll with the punches on it. And it would be 1 week he'd get you 30, and then another week he'd get you 4. And so that's kind of how you got to go with Taysom. But I'm with the landscape of the tight end spot, unless you have one of like the top. Unless you have the top guy, Brock Bowers. There you go. Unless you have Brock Bowers, you can roll out Taysom Hill and just roll with the punches, like especially with how injured they are. So, for sure. Another tight end to talk about here. We mentioned him when Fluke for real before. Is Jonnu Smith. 28.1 fantasy points, 6 catches on 8 targets, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Respectfully, I hate you. But I'm grateful that you're on my favorite football team, and I like the fantasy production in the tight end spot. So this is for real, but it's coming at the cost of Jalen Waddle and even Tyreek Hill. Like, at a point, I would say, like, why was Tyreek Hill not the one where that route was designed for? Was wide open down the field. Like,
why is the tight end?
Why did that happen? It's just like,
very
we watched
different Dolphins offense.
Last year, we were like, everyone was like, we need a tight end. And it was like, McDaniel's scheme doesn't use a tight end. No, we don't. Like, we don't need a tight end. And it was like, oh, we just need a tight end better than Durham Smythe. And then I guess we use the tight end. Like, I guess that's how that goes.
Well,
so
they got rid of Mike Gesicki, so I don't understand why this year Jonnu Smith is lighting it up with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, but Gesicki had to have a. I think Gesicki, it was like he had done enough in his career at that point. Sorry, I'm looking at this more as a Dolphins fan now than anything. But Gesicki had done enough in his career at that point that the contract that maybe he might have needed to.
He deserved.
They probably weren't willing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. He went to New England on like a 1 year and got $8 million. Anyway, but Jonnu Smith is the same kind of situation as Taysom Hill. It's like, if he can keep rolling him out, he's super involved. He's getting a ton of targets, and yeah, they should be in a good spot to be able to do that, especially against New England this upcoming week. So there you go. Anthony Richardson, 30.08 fantasy points, 2 rushing touchdowns. That's fine. That's cool. Here's what I want to talk about.
Is he back?
20 for 30, 272, and a tud. 272 against the Jets.
That is most
20
of the
for
season.
30, 67% completion. Best of his career, probably. I don't know that for a fact, but it probably
passing
is.
Yards of his career. Yep. Tied for most.
It's probably highest completion percentage, if I had to guess, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
If it were like an easy, well, one, actually, I'll just say this real quick: the Jets' defense sucks, dude. They fell off so bad, but he passed the eye test in the passing game, man, and in crunch time too. Like, they got the ball back with a chance to win the game, and like his first pass of the drive was like a beam down the sideline to Alec Pierce, and it was like, oh, wait, is he maybe okay? I'm gonna leave it at do it again, and like I want to see it, but I'm not like running to pick him up.
Here's
I don't
here's
think.
here's my biggest problem with this
Yeah.
is there's no reason to have him on your team
Right.
because
If you made it this far and you're still like paying attention to waivers and shit, like
you may
don't
need
to,
insurance.
like you're probably fine. Like you probably don't need go. Yeah, if you need insurance, go get Justin Herbert. Like that's where I'm kind of. Yeah, you make a good point. You don't have a reason to need him.
Yeah, like okay, so I'm a Jaden Daniels owner, okay, and I draft Daniels
Sure.
for the rushing upside, okay, and then I
Sure.
see what Anthony Richardson just did. Here's the big hesitation I have with this. Next week is Detroit, and then the week after that is New England.
Yeah.
That should be a good game for him, right? Okay, then it's the bye week, and then week 15 is Denver. First round of playoffs.
Yeah.
It's against Denver. Second week of playoffs, if you make it and you're starting Richardson, it's against the Titans. You start him there, and then you make it against the Giants, who do have a good defense. They do not have a good offense, but they have a good defense with some Pro Bowlers and some great players on there. So I'm going to say this is a fluke because there's no way for him to have this kind of stat line against the remainder of the season. But there's consideration for next year with drafting him. He's going to be a much later draft pick than he was going into this season. So I say fluke because this is the best it'll be for 2024.
Yeah. Josh Downs, 19.4 fantasy points. This, I said do it again when last time it was with Richardson. Because last time he was with Richardson, he scored upwards of 20 fantasy points. So he did it again. So everything applies, what you just said about Richardson, to Downs, to the matchups, but I would safely play Downs as a flex if I needed it.
With 5 targets,
and I wouldn't be scared to. I wouldn't be scared to. He's gotten in the end zone both of his last games with Richardson. He nearly got in the end zone twice this game before with Richardson. It's clear that Steichen has a plan and schemes Downs to get the looks and get the chances to make a play. So I wouldn't be. Previously, I wouldn't touch Josh Downs. I'm not scared to put him in my. I'm not like super scared to put him in my flex if I needed to. But ideally,
week 13 for sure against New England.
Yeah, and I mean, you could. The crazy thing is, you actually can pass the ball against the Lions. It's more that you can't run the ball against them. I was like shocked on Sunday. I kept getting the sleeper notifications. It was like Mac Jones, 23-yard completion to Brian Thomas Jr. And I was like, what the hell is like? What do you? I got like 4 of those throughout the game, and I was like, what do you mean that's happening? But anyway, MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, talked about him last week. Said do it again. He said, cool, I'll do it again. The targets improved by 1. But I mean, yeah, he's just playing this Shaheed role, I think it's just what he's doing. And if Carr is out there and you just, again, they just have this effort attitude, like he's probably if you're making a choice on your flex and it's like this guy or MVS, like I don't fault you for thinking that after 2 games like this, when we've seen Shaheed be the explosive play kind of guy in this offense. And it feels like he's just taking that role.
Sure.
So I don't fault you, but
yeah, the question, the devil's advocate of this is, are you going to, if you're in win now, like if you need to win, 2 or 3 of your next games to make playoffs or to have a better seeding, is MVS the guy you're going to line up in your flex option? I guess it depends on the matchup. It's a toss up, but I mean,
it's a worthy stat line. It's like what it is, and so it's like. As much as you consider Xavier worthy, or exactly, it's a Shaheed, it's a worthy, it's a Alec Pierce, it's but he's batting 1,000 for the Saints, so it's like, well, maybe, maybe this is it. I don't know.
Let's just say that he won't be in our Fluke for Real segment anymore because I expect him next week to get 2 points.
Right.
And so let's just talk about it now so we can save time, because then the week after that he'll get like 17 points, and the week after and the rest of the season he'll get like 5.
You're probably never going to play him when you need to. When you guess it, it's going to be wrong. And so anyway, it's tough. Christian Watson, next guy here, 19 fantasy points, 4 catches on 4 targets for 150 yards. Unfortunately, like it's great to see. I like Christian Watson. I'm glad he's staying a little more healthy, but this is just it's how this Packers offense goes, and it feels like it's impossible to predict. And like not as like volatile as Marquez Valdes-Scantling or Rashid Shaheed, but because I believe he is infinitely more talented than those guys. But you're never going to predict the right game, like especially in this Packers offense. Everyone this week was like Tucker Kraft's going to be a great play. He scored 0 points. It's like you just never know who is going to get the looks and who's going to be the guy who's going to make a difference there. If it's going to be Dobbs, if it's going to be Reed, if it's going to be Christian Watson, if it's going to be Wicks, if it's going to be Bo Melton, if it's going to be Tucker Kraft, if it's going to be Josh Jacobs getting a shit ton of targets. Like you just don't know which guy it's going to be. And so that's the disappointing part, and the hard part with it is that you want to be able to trust something like this because we were introduced to Christian Watson with the Rodgers era Packers and him being an absolute monster for production, touchdowns, like 6 touchdowns in like 4 games or something like that. It was crazy. But unfortunately, it's just the nature of the offense, I think.
And Jordan Love is on a bit of a down stretch too. Like he started out the year like
stinky poopy diaper butt quarterback.
Yeah, and like week 1 against Eagles in Brazil was fine. It's where he had I thought for a moment Love was just done for the year. I thought they were going to welcome to 2024. Jordan Love is done. He can't walk. But he came back and he was on a heater. 4 touchdowns in his first game against Minnesota, which he tried to come back and win. And then 2 touchdowns against the Rams, 4 against the Cardinals, 3 against Houston. And then he got hurt in week 8 and has thrown 1 touchdown since. So that's been a bad part. And that's why I say this is a fluke, because you can't predict. And Jordan Love has not been the same. So there's questions also in the passing game. Josh Jacobs has looked like a top 10 running back that I thought he would be all of a sudden. He suddenly looks like an elite running back in fantasy. So more reason to say that's a fluke. For,
upside.
Yeah, so out of nowhere. It's never been part of his career, but Watson, I think, is a fluke.
Yeah, it's fair. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, mentioned him in Victory Lap West, 19.7 fantasy points on the back of a 98-yard touchdown. He's finding the end zone. It was unfortunate that the week you were like, hey, go pick him up. He's scoring a lot, that he like scored like 4 points and like that was it. Yeah. But one way or another, he got there, and it took a long play to do it. He's out on the field a lot. I'm not saying like, I feel a little similarly to like, I think it's a safe desperation flex floor play. Like floor play. Whoa.
Hey, wait a minute.
Take it easy, guys.
Stop.
Nick Westbrook-Ikhine somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying, to be honest.
Made sense.
Yeah, that didn't add up at all, to be honest. Anyway, it's hard. He is finding the end zone. So you take pride in that, but it's, I don't know. I don't know
to say this is a fluke that he keeps scoring, but it's also not like he's not breaking 20 points. So it's not like
that's true. Yeah.
You're not really having a real game changer. Like you're having a nice, solid, teen digit kind of.
Yeah. It's a safe floor. Score. It's a safe floor play. If you need it, if you are desperate and you need that kind of thing. So there you go. And then Javonte Williams, dude, piss off. You were dead in the water 2 weeks ago, and I was like, told you guys, Audrey Estime, grab him, get him, so you can just bend you over and screw you, because it's just not going to be involved after. Like, it was just so annoying. Like, it was like, I think I already said it once. I don't like Sean Payton as a person, and this is why. Because it was like even this week he doubled down on it. It was like, yeah, it's really good and gonna get him some more opportunities. And then he was like, Estime was just kicked to the curb, and he got a few because it was a blowout. But and he came out and said because they mentioned, hey Sean, you had said we're hoping to get him a little more chances here. And he just kind of acknowledged, it's tough when you have 3 guys that are playing well. And you want to be able to get the young guy more chances. And I'm like, I couldn't fault him because like I was like watching Javonte play, and it was like, oh damn, like yeah, that's the best I think he's looked this season. Like he's doing work there. So I think it's just a backfield I'm just going to stay away from now because I just don't know what to do. It's just really tough. It's a bummer.
And it's
anyway,
too late
Javonte had 19 fantasy points, and do you want to rely on Javonte going into the fantasy playoffs? And I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about some big guys. Big guys. 5 guys here to talk about. Deebo Samuel is the first one, 6.1 fantasy points. I mean, it's been a pretty disappointing year beyond a few games, and
first 2
Brock
weeks.
Purdy loves
beautiful.
Brock Purdy loves Jawan Jennings. That's like awesome. I have Deebo Samuel in a dynasty league, and I before the games on Sunday, before the trade deadline hit, before the game started, I didn't trade Deebo. I still have Deebo on my team, but I went and traded for Jawan Jennings as well. And I was like, wow, I'm a contender in this league. I needed an additional. There's like 4 flex spots. It's like a deep starting lineup.
Oh my goodness!
And so I needed another piece because I had Olave and he got hurt. And I was like, I'll roll out both the Niners receivers. Because Jennings is going to be awesome. So anyway, but Deebo 6.1 fantasy points. He had a fine week last week, but it's just been like a weird roller coaster with him. And I think he's so good that, like, I believe he's such a talented player that maybe if he goes on a run here, it's gonna be really special. But like, I don't blame you for considering other options given how deep your wide receiver group could be.
You know what would be easier? It'd be easier if Christian McCaffrey had a 25-point fantasy game. And this was the byproduct. McCaffrey's back. What a welcome. You know, his first game was okay, like 14 points, but then he had a full week of practice and had a game under his belt in the season. Now he's back and he's awesome. But that didn't happen. And so there is some concern. And I'm feeling
it
quite
wasn't
good.
Bad. McCaffrey wasn't bad for what it's worth. It just wasn't, your 20-point plus. What do you expect? I think he got like 16 points. I
bring that up because Deebo had 1 carry for like one negative yard rushing. And that's also part of his game.
And no George Kittle in this game either.
And no Kittle.
That was a bigger piece of it that was like, whoa.
Obviously no Ayuk.
That's why I mentioned why I traded for Jawan Jennings. It's like he's becoming the top pass catcher. And I mean, well, I'll say Kittle probably. Actually, I don't know. Like, I think Jawan Jennings is the top pass catcher in that team.
Yeah. You know what I did in our family league, Noah? Like,
what did you do?
Week 5, I don't know, 4 or something. I don't know if you saw this. I traded away Deebo Samuel and Stephon Diggs in the same trade. And I got Garrett Wilson and Tony Pollard in return. And it didn't look like it was an amazing trade. And then Garrett Wilson started to come alive, and it was like, okay, awesome. And now I have a very solid 4th running back to my team. But I'm so happy I don't have Deebo to deal with because this is frustrating. And I think you roll him out because it's Deebo Samuel. You'll know the ceiling is as high as any wide receiver, but it's quite frustrating. And Jawan Jennings is the real deal. And I mean, it's like they forced Juwan to get the touchdown because he was having such a great drive too. That they were like, you need to score.
Dude, I know. I swore it was going to be McCaffrey's touchdown right there because he had the run to get him down to that point, and he nearly got in, and then it was like, nope, it's just another one. Nope. Juwan. I don't know, man. That's going to be interesting, especially start of next year with Ayuk returning off the ACL. It's going to be very, very. He could be a sneaky draft pick for the first few weeks for sure. I was gonna say something else about you. I would start Ladd McConkey over Deebo. I think.
Though?
I think so.
Yeah,
I would this week for sure. He's playing Baltimore. I would play Ladd. I would play. I would play Ladd over Deebo. I think I'd play.
He had a great game Sunday night.
I'd play Cortland Sutton over Deebo. I'd play Calvin Ridley over Deebo, I'd play like it's a conversation for sure. Deebo isn't that like top 15 guy. He's riding around the top 20.
So many bad weeks in a row.
30,
I can see someone doing that. Like I will do that. I do have Deebo in a couple leagues still. Okay,
so
next guy.
Kyle Pitts, 1 catch, 9 targets. It's just such a roll. It's just such a roll. Well, that's the thumbs down, honestly, to all of Atlanta because that was a garbage game.
That was
a terrible game. Ooh. And I know it's Denver, and the Denver defense is really good. Pitts has been was really up and down, especially to start the year. Went on a bit of a good streak of solid games. So with the landscape, like I mentioned a few times here, you're likely still playing him unless you have somebody else and just hoping that he gets more targets than 3 and more catches and maybe benefits if Darnell Mooney has a little bit of time missed or something. But 1.9, not great, Bob.
Double-digit games since since week 8. He hasn't had a double-digit game since week 8. No.
Have they had a bye?
9.5. They're going into their bye week right now. 9.5.
Wow, so that's been like 3 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I get it was really bad to start the year, and then he had a nice streak, as you said, weeks 5 through 8. But I mean, shoo, I might go pick up
Hunter Henry or Kyle Pitts.
Hunter Henry, one of your waiver wire ads.
Interesting. Okay,
just to see.
It's a good conversation. Yeah. 2 more tight ends, and then we'll go to running back, and then we'll move on. Travis Kelce, 2.8 fantasy points. TJ Hockenson, 3.3 fantasy points. I'm going to call Fluke on both these guys, actually. I think both these guys are good to be involved in their team's offense. I'm not sure what happened with Minnesota, that they weren't necessarily – that Darnold was throwing touchdowns and scoring. Yeah, missed on that one too, by the way. Dude, that was, like, insane. My opponent I was playing in one of our leagues had Sam Darnold and Russell Wilson and, was rolled with fourth and troll and played Russell Wilson instead of Sam Darnold. And he still wouldn't have won if he had played Darnold. But anyways. I think it's Fluke on both these guys. I think you can still safely play these guys. And that's my opinion. But
I think Hockenson has some concern because this is Darnold's first year and he didn't get to, I was thinking about it. He didn't get to do any of the training camp with Hockenson because Hockenson wasn't around to practice during the offseason.
Yeah.
And then this was also a mix between Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy for most of the offseason until like week 1 or 2 of preseason. So I don't think there's been any chemistry at all for Darnold to play or prepare for Hockenson. So I think this is just going to be Justin Jefferson from here on out. And so I do have concern for Hockenson. I'll go on record and say I do think this is for real. I think he will have some good games, but I can see this kind of stat line happening again.
It's certainly possible. He had 15.2 fantasy points last week, and he didn't score a touchdown. And he got 9 targets in the game. So it's definitely could be more of a roller coaster than you want it to be. But I believe he's very talented, and so.
I think so too. He's
so
awesome.
we'll see where that goes. Good and then the last guy here, Kyren Williams, good hair. Kyren Williams, 8.6 fantasy points, disappeared from the passing game, didn't score a touchdown. This is 3 weeks in a row of Kyren being a little disappointing, and I could understand if you wanted to call it for real, but he's still out there for like over 80% of the offensive plays. And so I'm bummed, but I'm not like panicking. His game against Miami was better than I think I even realized. Because watching that game, I was like, oh, we shut down Kyren. And he still scored in that game 11.2 fantasy points. And I was like, oh, I thought we completely shut him down. So I was like I was shocked. He's still running the ball efficiently. His yards per carry is still this week, 5.7 against Miami, 4.1. It's been 3 down games in a row outside the top 20 on the week. But I think McVay loves him, and it's going to be a tough matchup against Philly for sure. Yeah. But Stafford was just dealing, I think. Dude, Stafford had a great Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, when you got Puka and Cooper Kupp, you can just kind of
Yeah.
sling it all around. So here's one thing. I think against the Eagles next week, Kyren might have another single-digit game or at least a very low
Yeah, it could be
double-digit
close.
scoring game.
Yeah.
And then I think the rest of the season is going to be fantastic because then it's
Yeah.
the Saints, and then it's the Bills, then it's the Niners, and then it's the Jets. Don't be fooled. The Jets defense sucks. It doesn't matter what position.
Yeah.
And then to close out the season is against the Cardinals. Rams usually have the Cardinals number in their NFC West matchups. 49ers have the Rams. Rams have the Cardinals. Cardinals have the Seahawks. Seahawks usually have the 49ers. It's usually kind of somewhere around that.
I love
circle.
Inception, dude. Such a good
Dude,
movie.
yeah, dude, kind of good movie.
Yeah.
14th year anniversary, I think. Anyway, whatever. That's it.
Cool.